Today I have a story of probably the most entitled parent of all time who tried to sue the school for failing her son, even though her son legitimately did fail. With that being said, sit back, relax, leave a like in the video to claim your free nothing, and let's get right into it. So the story today was sent in by a subscriber, and if you want to send in a story too, you can either do so to my Instagram or the Discord server. Both are linked in the description. We're going to call today's subscriber, we're going to call him James. And by the way, I get all the names from the comment section, so leave a name or leave a comment of a name that you'd like me to use. It can be like a friend's name, your dog's name, doesn't even matter. Just leave a name down below. Anyways, right, so James, he was in 7th grade. And in James's class wasn't necessarily harder than any other class or something, but he was in a math class, and I kind of feel like English classes and history classes, most of the humanities classes, it's really hard to fail those classes, but it's also really hard to do really well. I feel like in classes like math, it's much easier to do really well, but it's also much easier to do really poorly, because on math, it's really kind of like, I would say with most teachers, and some teachers are a little bit evil, but with most teachers, it's pretty subjective. Like 2 plus 2, it equals 4. You either got it right or you got it wrong. But in English, it's like, oh, does this feel like you did a good job? I know it's more to it than that with grammar and everything, but still, this was a math class, so it was a lot easier to fail it, and you definitely could fail it more legitimately. Honestly, I feel like if you're failing in an English class, either 1, the teacher hates you, 2, you never do the work, or maybe 3, man, maybe writing's just not for you. I don't know. But in James's class, the subscriber, there's this kid, and this kid's name was Liam. Liam was not a bad kid at all, but he definitely, math was just most definitely not his best subject, right? It was not his strong suit. And so much so that he was failing the class by a significant margin. No, this was not the teacher rounding down like a 64 from a D- to an F. This was the teacher, giving an F because, he had a 40 in the class or something, right? These things happen. Try not to fail classes, study hard, but it's not the end of the world. You can always recover. But anyways, right, Liam was doing very poorly in the class. And, James was doing all right. He was getting probably middle of the line, but it was a hard enough class that he felt pretty happy with that. But Liam was definitely struggling. The subscriber James and Liam, the kid in the class that wasn't doing so well, they were also kind of friends. They weren't the best of friends ever, but they were friendly enough that one day they were at lunch and they were sitting together, and the topic of math class came up, and Liam started to tell James that, his mom received word of his grades and was very, very upset. But Liam did specify that she was not that upset at him, which was kind of confusing. And James was like, bro, what do you mean your mom's not upset at you? My mom would absolutely destroy me if she heard that I was failing this class. She'd be so mad, right? And Liam said, she's actually not mad at me. She's mad at the school. Which if I got to break narrator for a second, to be fair, when a kid fails a class and they are trying, at a certain point, it's not really the fault of the kid, and I'm 100% behind that kind of ideology. However, right, this mom takes it a little bit too far. And just a heads up, a lot of this story will be told from the perspective of Liam or things that Liam heard, but obviously James was the subscriber who sent this in, and Liam just told James a lot of this stuff after the fact. Anyways, right, so Liam's mom was not as much mad at Liam, but was mad at the school, which can be understandable to a certain extent. Obviously, the things she's about to do make it less, acceptable, but the truth was, Liam was actually, at home studying quite a bit for this class, and it was pretty apparent, and that's why, the mom was mad, because she saw her kid come home every day and still not do well in the class. That's something, if I was a parent, I'd also be, upset with. Understandable, right? But here's when things start to, get a little bit more interesting. So apparently, right, Liam's mom schedules an appointment with the teacher, and, the teacher was totally happy to do this because obviously, right, the teacher's job there is to assist the student to do as well as possible. And the teacher had offered, Liam extra help, and they've had a couple sessions before, and while it made Liam do a little bit better, and he did better than the first few exams, which were completely abysmal, right, he still was not doing well in the class by any means. So the teacher was a little bit surprised when Liam's mom came in pretty aggressive because, she's like, why have you not even attempted to help my son? Why is my son failing this class? He's putting in so much work, he shouldn't be failing. The teacher explains to Liam's mom that, Liam and him had been, doing some workshops, and while Liam's grades were definitely not anything to write home about, that they were improving and that he would probably be passing in class by the end of the semester. And the mom was like, Liam's mom was like, when you mean pass, do you mean an A or a B? Or when you say pass, do you mean not an F? And the teacher's like, well, Liam did underperform quite significantly on quite a few tests. It's going to be pretty mathematically hard, if not impossible, to get, an A in this class, but I think he could still, squeak out, a mid C and maybe a very low B if possible. And when Liam's mom heard that, she got really angry. She's like, well, my son is working very hard. Can't you erase the first couple grades? Can you not give him extra credit? And the teacher, to the teacher's credit, he can't make a special exception for one person, right? Everyone, he can help people, give them extra help, but he can't alter grades. That wouldn't be fair to everyone else in the class, because even though, the class wasn't easy by any means, the class average was still, a B or whatever. And Liam was more or less the only one doing as poorly as he did. And trust me, man, I've been in a class, I took Arabic through my high school, and I was the worst in the class, legitimately the worst in the class. Language is not my thing, but I was I know what it's like, man, and I know what it's like. And apparently, right, Liam's mom just couldn't understand why the teacher couldn't just, erase the grades or just make it possible for her son to get an A in the class. And, while I can be a little sympathetic, I also am sympathetic to the teacher at this point. But anyways, right, Liam's mom storms out of the meeting, and the teacher's kind of caught off guard because, he thought it was going to be a lot friendlier of a meeting because, at the end of the day, he's not, while he is the one grading the tests, at the end of the day, right, he's not the inventor of math. He's not the one who decides what these math answers are. And anyways, right, so, the next day comes around and the teacher doesn't think much of it. And James and Liam are in class at this point. And this is before James actually, knows about what happened the night before with the meeting with Liam's mom, because Liam tells him this after the fact. I'm just telling it to you in chronological order. But basically, right, they're sitting in class one day, and the teacher's at his desk, and he's going through his email, and then his face, the teacher's face completely, sinks. His face, loses all coloring. Not actually, but, he got this shocked expression on his face, he just witnessed something crazy. It's about to get real interesting, so I don't want to interrupt the flow, so I'll say the secret word now. If you made it this far, comment teacher down below. I will try and heart as many of those comments as possible. If you don't know, I actually filter the comments by the secret word and dish out a bunch of hearts. I can't heart them all because I have, life in school and such, but I'll do my best. Anyways, back to the story. So anyways, right, when, James and Liam are in class, they notice their teacher, his face, just, drops. Almost like he's reading the craziest news he's ever read. And he, he gets up from his desk, a little shaken, and, he says, hey, class, I'm so sorry. Open to page, 58 and do some of the practice problems, 1 through 25. You don't have to finish them. You don't have to hand them in. I just need to go for a second. I will be back eventually. And if I'm not back by the end of class, just, pack stuff up and go to the next class. And he abruptly leaves. And everyone's a little confused at this point. But they also don't really question it. So they, they open up. And to be fair, no one is really doing the problems because he did say, I'm not going to collect it. I'm not going to look at it. Just do these problems. I'm also going to leave and not have you supervised. And let me just say that, that class is not doing the problems. Maybe there's one person in the front of the class doing the problems, but everyone is kind of just sitting there, and then they start talking to each other. And James and Liam happen to be sitting next to each other. And, James is like, do you have any idea what that was? And Liam at this point also had no idea. Obviously, he knew that his mom met with him the day before, but he assumed that there was, literally no correlation. Anyways, right at this point, everyone in class just didn't know what was going on, and they had no real idea to know what was going on, so they kind of just go about their day. But anyways, right, Liam, the kid who isn't doing well in class, learns pretty quickly once he gets in the car to be driven back from his mom, right? He learns pretty quickly what's actually going on. So in the car ride back, his mom asks, oh, Liam, how's your day been? I hope everything is good with you. And Liam was like, yeah. And she's like, I just want to let you know, there's a little thing going on with the school between us and them. And Liam's like, oh, what's going on? And his mom's like, well, Liam, I really think the treatment of you is unfair in that classroom. So I'm looking into opening up a lawsuit. And at this point, Liam's just like, you're looking into what? She says, yeah, and also not just a lawsuit against the school, a lawsuit against, your teacher, Mr. What, the math guy, him specifically, since I think specifically, I think he's treating you poorly specifically in that class, and I just won't stand for it. And, we got to have a financial compensation for this because this grade might mess up your chances of getting into a good, college, which will mess up your chances of a good career path. And who knows, you might end up on the streets. Maybe she didn't say it that drastically, but that was basically the gist of it. At this point, right, Liam's in 7th grade. Let me just tell you something that, He hasn't even gone to high school yet. This is a grade in 7th grade. But Liam's mom was one of those parents that like really went crazy about this stuff. And she also thought that, in America, you can make a lawsuit out of anything. At this point, right, Liam, he's only in 7th grade, and he's not going to be like, Mom, this is morally wrong. He was just like, okay, if you think that's right, because he didn't really know, if this was like good or bad or whatever. But the next day, Liam gets to school, and before he can go to math class, he's pulled aside by the principal. And the principal says, hey, Liam, like, how's it going? And Liam's like, it's going pretty well, Mr. Principal. How are you? And the principal's like, I could be doing better. And at this point, Liam's like, okay, this conversation is not going to go in a great direction. And the principal just says, hey, I think it's best because of ongoing, litigation and, legal issues that you don't attend the math class. We've, paused your grading and, like, you won't lose any credit for, like, however long this takes. But we just think it's best that you don't attend class. So anyways, right at lunchtime, James, the subscriber, goes up to Liam and says, hey, man, like, I saw you weren't in math class today. Also, like, our teacher's acting really strange. Like, you remember when he left yesterday out of the blue? I don't know what it is, but, like, he was acting really strange today. And at this point, this is when Liam explains to James everything that happened, basically everything that happened in the last couple days, which is what I told you guys for, like, the last 4 minutes. By the end of the conversation, James is like, dude, like, you're my boy, but, like, what your mom is doing, I don't think is okay. Like, at the end of the day, it's like, I hate to say it, but it's on you, like, the grade you get in math. Like, of course, the teacher maybe could have taught you better, maybe was a little hard with his assignments, but a lawsuit? And James is like, yeah, or Liam is like, yeah, man, like, I don't know how I feel about it either, but it just is what it is. Anyways, right, so for the following days, Liam is just, like, advised not to go to math class, and he obviously takes them up on the offer and doesn't say, no, I'm going to attend math class, I don't care what you say. Yeah, no, he was totally fine not going to math class. But essentially, right, James now aware of the situation. Also, Liam said, hey, man, can you just not tell people? And James was, like, just, like, a solid dude, so he just didn't. He did end up telling his mom just because, like, that's his mom. His mom was just like, wow, like, I knew Liam's mom was always, like, a little bit crazy. I don't know how else to put it, like, a little bit entitled, but this is kind of insane. Like, she actually wants to sue the school. And so, yeah, so throughout the couple days or the following days, James would notice, like, kind of like official looking guys and girls in suits walking into the school, walking into the principal's office. Saw like 2 parties, like kind of like obviously the school's lawyers and then like the private lawyers. And over the next couple days, it was just a very weird atmosphere as word kind of spread pretty quickly because like it wasn't just Liam and Liam's mom that were aware. Like, a lot of people started to, like, figure out what was going on, and it was just a very weird atmosphere for the school at that time. One day when James came into school, it all stopped. No more lawyers, no kind of weird tension. Things were just going as usual. And so anyways, at lunch, James found Liam and was like, hey, man, like, I didn't see any lawyers today. Is like, anything different? And Liam said, yeah, so actually a lot is different now. So Liam then went on to explain to James that, it was actually taken to court and that it was actually thrown out so quickly, right, that, like, it was thrown out in the span of a week. The judge saw it and was like, this has literally no grounds after looking into it briefly. And after a lot of, like, complaining from Liam's mom, eventually she's like, she does want to dump an infinite amount of resources, right? Liam's parents got a decent amount of money, but, Liam's mom didn't want to dump an infinite amount of resources into this case, especially if, like, judges were not even going to see it, just throw it out instantly, right? So after a couple days, after it's officially thrown out, and after Liam's mom was kind of done, shouting and, moaning and whining and all that kind of stuff, eventually it was over. The lawyers were done, the school was done, and both the suit against the school as well as the individual teacher was dropped. So while James and Liam were still decently friendly, right, Liam never returned to that math class as, he worked it out with the principal to actually retake that math class, next year with a different teacher. They just really thought that, it just wouldn't have made sense due to the circumstances for, like, that teacher to still be teaching Liam just because of all that went down, right? And Liam got help over the summer and he got better at math and he ended up passing. He got like a C or a B or something. He didn't kill it next year, but he did much better next year in that math class. And for the remainder of the year when James was in the math class, the teacher was normal again because you know what? He wasn't being sued, and that is a good feeling.